The idea behind this has been to be out in front and to try to answer questions that I think we all have in common. Definitely, the questions I've gotten since Friday are coalescing around one theme, which is, when is the market going to hit bottom? When is this all going to be over? So I thought I'd start with a little bit of perhaps positive thoughts around that, and there's two pieces of evidence that uh, are maybe not known to everyone, which can give maybe a clue. The first is I have a lot of friends that are in the New York hedge fund scene. They run big amounts of money, and part of that business involves not just investing the client's money that you have, and this doesn't apply to every single one, but applies to a lot of them. And then, in addition to that, to try to get better returns, you borrow money from a prime broker or somebody who's willing to lend it to you, and you invest even more money than you have. And so you put up the portfolio you have as collateral, and then if things are relatively calm, it can work and you can generate excess returns, which can be pleasant for clients and for yourself. And what you generally do is you build models about how assets are going to move that that are based on how things have moved in the past. So so anyway, in the last month, where the market has moved farther faster than it ever has, and more importantly, uh, the correlations have broken. And I'll give you just a quick piece of knowledge about that, which is there was a period of time, it's actually started to change on Friday, and I actually noted it when we talked last, which is there was a period of time last Friday where corporate bonds, which are fairly high quality and short term, high yield bonds, which are lower quality and some short term and some longer term, and stocks were all down kind of about the same, which is not supposed to happen. That's very uncommon, and in fact has never happened. And so my first piece of my first green shoot is that a lot of the selling, the cascading of selling that has rippled through these markets has been a result of some of those people who borrowed money and having every asset that they own go down simultaneously, being forced to have to sell that stuff, which, obviously, where there can be a virtuous circle of calm and positivity leading to fear of missing out and buying, and that virtuous circle also can have a vicious cycle. And so I think when we're talking in superlatives like we've seen this month, worst month ever, correlations busting, what I'm trying to say is that I think a lot of the selling, in fact, I know a lot of the selling is as a result of people who are being forced out of positions, thankfully not a position that we're in. And the second thing I think that we can put out as a positive, but we don't know when, is that insiders of corporations have started buying in bigger amounts than they have in a long time. So I learned this earlier in my career. There's a multitude of reasons people can sell stocks if you work at a corporation. You can want to buy a bigger house or buy a car, or you could sell stocks for a million different reasons. There's only one reason to buy stocks, and that's because you think they're a good investment and they're going higher. So the fact that insiders at corporations are choosing now to dip a toe in is a very positive sign. So the question I've gotten most frequently is, what's the stock market going to do? Everybody knows I don't know, and I think most people ask it tongue in cheek. What I do know is what we're going to do and how we're going to continue to play out our hand on our own behalf and on your behalf. So let me explain the philosophy. So most of you own or know us for the long view strategy, but there are others we have as well, seen kind of over my shoulder here in these different on the screen. The idea for us is we've always done well by following the direction of earnings. So what we know is with the instant stoppage, the flick of the switch, close down the economy, great health care strategy, not very good economic growth strategy, and everybody could kind of trace a straight line to earnings are going to be terrible. So it might have been that a lot of this recession that we're probably already in completely got priced in 1 month. That it would stand to reason that because it was so clear for anybody with an Excel spreadsheet to figure out how to model zero, it's obviously it has catastrophic human effects, but the financial effects, which is what people who are investing in stocks are trying to figure out, were kind of obvious to see. So we definitely think having less exposure on bad days and on good days makes sense. And I've said this, and I don't mean to be glib ever, but I've said this and I believe it, which is we're all very well protected against the best case. If the best case happens and the virus blows over and everybody gets back to work and then everything kind of snaps back and we miss a couple percent on the turn, I'm fine with that. Primarily because we've done a fairly good job of not being down as much as the market's down or nowhere near it to get to this point. So it sort of buys us a little bit of flexibility in terms of letting things see where they're going to go. I just looked before I started. Earnings estimates for this year are still 2% above earnings for last year. So there isn't anybody watching this, or there isn't anybody breathing that thinks that earnings in 2020 are going to be above where they were in 2019. It's not happening. So that still has a long way to go down, and as the direction of those numbers go, in the past at least, that's the direction that stocks have gone. So we've taken steps that we feel are prudent to protect, right? And so that is, can be painful or a little bit of pain on days when everything's green, but I don't care what anybody says. I know we were down a ton, but to be up this much and to have one strategy that's up 8% in one day is not normal. And it's not, it doesn't lead, it's more pleasant when you look at your account on a day like this. It doesn't lead me to go, good thing that's over. I don't think it's over, and I think we're probably a long way from it being over. And that's what the market's trying to sort out, is when is the peak of, and I think we're all looking at these different cases of, well, if we're 2 weeks away from the worst possible news, then we can kind of trace it out of there. And so anyway, that's what I think is happening. I would say on a human level, this has been a really extraordinary period because I have gotten, it's been, we're all traumatized, right? Traumatized because the markets have been down so hard and so fast and without really even taking much of a breath. And here we are kind of coming to the end of March, and whether we have 4 up days and it doesn't look quite as bad as it might, or whether, today's up 6 and tomorrow's down 6, everybody knows, no one knows what tomorrow will bring. But the reality is it will go down as the worst month, perhaps ever. I think that's where we are now. So anyway, be that as it may, I want to keep going back to the optimistic part of this, which is it will end. And so Jonathan and myself and Lauren and Dan and Carol and everybody has been kind of picking through what we think will be the right stocks to lead us out of this. We are compelled by some of these hardware companies that will be, I think everybody who's not enjoyed their Wi-Fi speed or feels that they weren't completely prepared for being at home for a couple days, will be making investments in their own, once everybody has a job again, and investments in their own setup. And so that obviously has implications that have already been put into the strategies, but these are durable, I think, shifts in how we're going to be doing things going forward, and will be part of the solution that sort of leads us out of this. So besides that, we're still handling, I think I talked to 38 different people yesterday, and so I'm really appreciative of the people that are reaching out and texting and emailing, and continue to do that. I'm going to stick by continuing to be out on Tuesdays and Fridays until we can all kind of feel like, wow, that the worst of this is over. It could be a while, but I do think communicating with you on a regular interval is important. We are all in this together, and I think we all understand that on a much deeper level than we ever thought we could. But we will get through it, and we will continue to try to do the best we can every day between now and then to make sure that we are protecting and growing at some point your assets. And until then, I will sign off. Thank you very much.